Okay, we are live. Let me wait for my Amazon one to catch up here. There we go. So now we are totally live, and we today are going to look at another super cheap Chromebook. This is the Acer Chromebook 311. And we're going to unbox it and we're going to test it. That is what we're going to do today. And what I'm going to do first, though, is set up my Google Doc because I'm going to review this probably tomorrow. I'm trying to get ahead of the game this week. I'm feeling good about being able to do that too. So this is the Acer Chromebook 311. What I need to do is check when this one expires. And let's see where this one is on the list. This is the Chromebook 311. And this one is good until June of 2028. All right, so this one is pretty recent. All right, so we're going to unbox it. Jay Palema is here on Amazon. And I got to load up my chat thing on my production system here. My wife just got a new phone, by the way, so I might do something with it. I got her, she wanted well, she broke her iPhone. And then Verizon was doing a deal where if you break your iPhone, they give you a new one, like a brand new one. So we got an iPhone 13, not the Pro, but the 13. And Nigel is here, Tyler James is here, Christoph 289 is here, Charles G is here. John Bell wants to know, who do I think the target audience for this is? Yeah, I think you're going to see, this was definitely like the school target. And I suspect that there is a glut of these on the market right now because they couldn't make enough of these when they needed them, but now they're made, right? So I'm going to bet that as expensive as everything is getting, let me just get my box cutter here. As expensive as everything is getting right now, all this cheap stuff is going to be even cheaper because I think there's way too much of it. Because everyone that needed something like this has one. And what's useful about these Chromebooks is that they can run Linux apps, right? So, I mean, granted, there's not a lot of power here. So just to give you an idea as to the specs on this one. Yeah, this is kind of a misnomer, gigabit Wi-Fi. I don't quite think that is an accurate statement. But this one has an 11.6-inch IPS display, which is nice. That's 720p. So I guess it's like, was it 1368 by, or whatever, yeah, 1368 by 7, whatever. I'll get the full specs on it here. Let's take a look and make sure I get that correct. So it's got the dual-core Intel Celeron. It's an N4000 CPU, by the way, so it's one of those Gemini Lake things. Not much storage, only 4 gigs of RAM, and I doubt it's upgradable. If there's an easy path for taking it apart, I will try to do so if I have time. Bear with me here for 1 second, folks. And let me get the lowdown on the display. But Acer was one of the original Chromebook manufacturers. I think they and HP were the first ones. Questions, call Acer first. Don't return it. Got a question? Call us first. Don't return it. All right, so let's take it out of the box here. And we've got ourselves a wrapped up Chromebook here. Feels just like all the other ones. It is plastic. It's got a USB Type-C port, though. I doubt that supports video input, but oh, it's got 2 of them. Well, you know what, folks? There is a display icon next to that, so you know this could be a full service connection. We'll try this out, see what it is. And we got our power cord here. So why don't we get going on all this. And let's see what the specs are. They call it future-proof I'm looking at the product specs. Future-proof processing. Not quite. Ugh. Sorry, I'm just getting back into the Mondays here. So this is, I'm trying to get the display resolution. I'm pretty sure it's 1366 by 768, I think is the. Let's take a look at that. Chromebook 311 specs. Tech specs. And Jay Palema in the Amazon chat had one of the earlier Dell Chromebooks. Yeah, some of the early ones were kind of a hit or miss thing, right? But it's got two USB Type-C ports on it. And it looks like it's got a 2x2 AC radio on there, a wide field of view webcam, little tiny little pinhole camera at the top. Not the most attractive device out there. You want thin bezels, you got to pay for those thin bezels. So on the cheapo unit here, you don't get that. Let's see, 13, I'm just looking at the display, 1366 by 768. All right, so let's plug this in. Now I'm curious if this USB-C port supplies power on both sides. So I just plugged it in on that side, and yep, it does. So we will test and see if it is capable of doing display output through that as well. So let me get my cables situated here. Bear with me, folks. I'm just getting all my cables arranged here. So I'm going to plug this thing in to see if we get multiple things going here. Let's plug this in here. There we go. Okay. All right. Well, it has booted. And we will undoubtedly have to do a bunch of updates on this thing, as we always end up doing when we play around with this stuff. But there it is. Voila. Welcome. Okay. So now I'm going to disconnect this, and we're going to go set it up. All right. So let me connect this to the Wi-Fi, and we should put the Wi-Fi to the test and see what kind of speed we get, because I do have a gigabit connection. Now my 5G devices off of that access point will get about 700 or 800 megabits per second, give or take, like right underneath it. I highly doubt this is, if you were to combine all of the capacity of the Wi-Fi, I think you might be able to get there to a gigabit, but we'll see. All right, got a bunch of people that I'm missing here. So let's see who I missed. JJ Mart is here. RW Stark is here. Say hello to some more folks. We have Greg M. Holiday Day in Canada. What holiday is it in Canada today? Roman is here, and Roman's the one, by the way, who pointed this out to me, so that's why we got this thing in. Joe Tyson is here. I am on tech. It's Victoria Day in Canada. That is why there's a holiday. And James is having trouble with the Wi-Fi staying on there, so we'll have to see what we get there. And yeah, I think we're going to just see these things get dumped on the market. All right. And Chris checks the expiration dates. Yeah, this one is June 2028. And Roman says the 10-hour battery life definitely screams student. Absolutely. Yeah, we're not going to want to drop this one. It is all plastic. But yeah, I think there is a market and a reason to own one of these things. I like to carry around like a cheap computer with a decent keyboard, right? So, you don't want to risk something expensive getting stolen. And if you just need access to your Google Docs or a command line, But yeah, I don't think it's quite future-proof for sure. And I Am on Texas reminds him of a netbook. Yeah, that's definitely kind of the heritage of these devices. And Lewis is not a fan of the bezels. And Charles has a good point here, that a good use case of a Chromebook is a lockdown, safe device to use for managing banking and health applications. I think that's very true, because you got a keyboard, it's a real web browser. You can have it be your only banking computer, and it stays up to date for 8 years. Harry is awesome. Can you run a few Android games? Yeah, we'll take a look at those. Android games can be hit or miss on these because this is an Intel device, and a lot of the Android games target ARM processors. Roman said USB should have a little logo where they can market full service ports. Yeah, there's like a million icons that they put next to it. They've never been able to make it less confusing for the consumer. Travis says this might be a good first computer for a youngster. Yep, I agree. These are the kind of computers that my kids get at school. These are the ones that they issue. And Wilton got one last week. It's working great. Yeah, I think there's a real use case for one of these things. I have in the Amazon chat, HCS with a lot of cats, who I've seen on the chat before. He uses those as thin clients to connect remotely to the office. They're great for non-challenging work. They're fairly good to manage on the Google business domain. Right. And actually, our school has hundreds of these things centrally managed through Google. All right, so I'm going to log into my new Chromebook here. I purchased this with my own funds, by the way, in case you're wondering. I'm going to go into my test accounts. And then I'm sure we will have an update to do once I get in there. All right, so we're going to go through the onboarding process here. The display looks pretty good. They said it's an IPS display. I can't determine if it is. It's a matte finish. It's not shiny. It's obviously not a touch. Is it a touch screen? No, not a touch screen. It's not a touch screen. All right, so we're going to sign in, do the Google Play stuff. All right, accept all the things that I'm giving away to Google here. And it supports the Google Assistant. Jay Playman wants to know, how bright is it? I don't have a number. I would say it's probably in the 250 to 300 nit category. All right, the Assistant can recognize my voice. And my Google Assistant is ready. All right, we're not going to do the phone. We're all set. All right, get started. Ta-da, here we are. All right, so now all the stuff has to get synced up, and then we got to do the update. But we can play with a few things in the interim here. So let me go and get the update going. And yeah, so it's doing the update right now. So you know what I'm going to do here while we're futzing around is we're going to test and see how full service these ports are. It came with about a half a charge on the battery, so to get the battery life, we're going to need to do a little bit more there. And let's do this one here. Okay, so now I'm going to plug in. So I've got my USB docking station, which has a video output going to it right now. So I just plugged it in. It's getting a charge, but I am not seeing the display coming out of that one. So this one is power. I don't know if it does data. Let's see. Yep, so it does data and power, but it does not appear to do display. So let's unplug it. And I'll try the other port and see if we get all of the above out of the other port here. So let's plug that in. And you can't really see it very well because I have, all right, so the Ethernet came back up. It's charging again, but I'm not seeing any display output, even though it's got a little USB display logo next to it. So let me check and make sure that this thing is plugged in. Make sure I got it in the right port here on the little docking thing here. My video input device. Cycle power to it and see if that might do it. I have a feeling that this might not support display output, but I'm going to have to check a few more things before I make that final decision. Let's see here. And yes, we will do some Xbox game streaming on it. And if they can run Roblox and Minecraft, yep, I think it can do that, the Android version. Great for the office until people want a caps lock or delete key. Yeah, you do have to struggle a little bit with the caps lock. I think there is a key command for that. I do not know what version of Android these things run. It would be Ronald Reagan's favorite operating, so that's right, he was big into the jelly beans, wasn't he? And I think you probably could coax it into running Doom. You could definitely run Doom on one of those browser emulators, couldn't you? And yeah, I think YouTube performance will be fine on it. It does have an Intel chip inside. And Stan's wondering, I had some leftover Chinese food. We had my mom's birthday over the weekend, so we brought in some Chinese food for her. So my mom likes Chinese food. So do the kids. So that was a good deal. Yeah, so it doesn't look like at the moment this is giving me any display output. But let me check. I have many dongles in my repertoire. So I'm going to try a dongle. It is recognizing the, let's go to one. See, you know, I'm really bad about putting things back. There it is. It is recognizing the Ethernet on the dock, but not the display output. So I'm going to plug in a distinct USB device here and see if we can get a display out with that. So let's plug this in. And I'm going to grab my HDMI. So this is just a display output, just to see if that might coax it. Okay, so that triggered. So I am getting display out through this little docking thing, but not, or through a dongle, but not through a docking station. So we got it out of the left one. So now the question would be, could this support two displays, which I'll have to test a little later. I'm guessing it might. Because these Intel chips, I have mini PCs. Yeah, this one works the same way. I have mini PCs that will do 3 display outputs. And these little Intel chips can push 4K out of them. So it's conceivable. We'll see. All right, at least we know that works. So I've got to figure out if it's the docking station, but also how many displays can we connect to this thing simultaneously. So I'm going to add that to my list of things here. So it looks like, even though it wasn't doing all those things at once, both of these USB-C ports are full service because we were getting power, data, and video out of both, just not at the same time. So I'll make a note in my notes here. I have found that sometimes Chrome OS is a little finicky with docking stations. That has been something I have observed over time. Okay, so we're still getting the update here. And while the update is going, I am going to, yeah, my dock might need a reboot also. So I have one of these docks that can switch between Thunderbolt and USB-C. So it's possible that the dock is locked in a Thunderbolt mode. Let me reboot the dock real quick and see if that might address it. So I'm going to unplug the dock and plug it back in. Now granted, all right, so I just unplugged the dock and reset it. So it's kind of at a vanilla state. So let's plug in the cable here. I'm going to unplug the power cable. And let's plug in this one. And let's see if it triggers. It could just be that this Chromebook doesn't like the dock. And I've seen that before, that some of these docking stations aren't cooperative. But it definitely worked through the HDMI adapter. All right, well, we'll come back to that. I'll figure that out in the intervening time between the review and this. But you can see how much effort goes into reviewing even a little inexpensive device like this one. But kind of neat, full service USB-C on both sides for the price, right? That's a good deal. All right, let's see what else we can do with this thing. We got to wait for the update to go through. I'm going to let that finish. It's at 97%, so I think it'll be ready to reboot here in a second. Not a lot of RAM, not a lot of storage. 32 gigs of storage and 4 gigs of RAM. So you're not going to do much on here, but it is going to be more powerful than some of the other 11-inch Chromebooks we've looked at in the past. And the USB-C flexibility is really nice on here to see that full service. That's good. Good stuff. Oh, I'm missing all these comments. Okay. Stan says it's amazing. Yeah, isn't it pretty incredible? Like something, I think about how much I paid for my Mac, my PowerBook back in 1994, and comparatively, how little it could do versus this one. So that PowerBook could run maybe 40 minutes on the battery, not 10 hours, right? Martin Paolini is here. Kingman wants to know, have I tried the HP Stream 14? No, we did try the 11, and I reviewed that one. I found it wasn't performing all that well, but there was a Lenovo one with a 14 that we looked at that was a little better. And Travis often confuses the caps lock in place of the shift, so he's all set for Chromebooks. Doesn't have to worry about that caps lock key. John wants to know how well it will do in the Linux environment. We will definitely check that out in a minute. And Oliver points out the RAM limitations. Absolutely. CF wants to know, are these subsidized in any way? I don't think they're subsidized. I think normally it costs a lot more. So it sounds like they're getting dumped at cost or close to cost. If you make enough of them with cheap components, I think you can crank it out. Now I'm looking at the display more. It says it's IPS, and I think it might be because it looks a little nicer than, and it's hard to convey on camera, but it looks a little nicer than your standard TF display you would typically see on one of these things. So it does look pretty nice. And you got a good amount of ports here. You got an SD card slot, your USB-C full service, a USB 3 headphone microphone there. This might be a good little thing to run my ham radio stuff, right? USB 3 here, another full service USB-C, and a Kensington lock. No fan. I would imagine it is not upgradable. Maybe we'll try to take it apart and see if we can get inside of it. So it looks like it's fairly easy to take it apart here. It's got a lot of screws on the bottom, but I don't think any of these stickers are covering up a screw hole. Yeah, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 screws. All right, so we're going to restart and do the update. And yeah, I did a whole video on this problem. It's so confusing. It is so confusing. David Brain is not sold on Chrome OS. Has 2 educational notebooks with Windows 10, $100, Kano touchscreen PC. And yeah, I think you'll always find Chrome OS being a bit limiting. Alan Park says a good computer for a kid. Yeah, I would say so. These are the kind of machines that get issued at schools. My kids have very similar Chromebooks. Although my kids are younger, so they get the ones that have been through the ringer. So like my daughter's got like this beat up HP that she gets to use. All right, so we are back in business, and now it's got to sync up all the Android stuff that we've. So what happens is it syncs my apps up with the account. Hey, Tech Time with Eric is here. Good to see you from South Jersey. How's that electric truck coming along? And Roman makes a very good point, too, that normally, like when we do the Windows, remember that? We spent, like, what, the better part of 2 or 3 hours getting that Windows machine taken care of, right? So this is a lot faster to get up and running, even with the update. And you can actually use the computer during the update process. They seem to manage it a little better. All right, so now let's go over to the Linux thing. I like to get that. I like to get everything kind of installed, and then we move on from there. So let's go search for Linux. And let's turn that on. Turn on my Linux, please. All right, it's installing Linux. Surprised this is still in beta, right? It's been around for a while now. This is a 720p display on this one. Mark Smith says, good basic unit. And yeah, it was pushing out 1080p. I bet you this will go to 4K. I'll find out for sure. Chris hates the bezels. There must be a way to make this student-friendly and durable. Yeah, I think I've talked to people in the industry about bezels, and it's all a matter of cost from what they tell me, that the display technology is kind of in the lower bezel, and the more expensive displays have smaller components, and that's been kind of driving it. But yeah, it definitely looks like it was, I mean, it looks like it's a decade old, right? They haven't changed the look at all. And Jeff got one with an AMD CPU for 99 bucks and converted a Dell to yep, Chrome OS Flex is a great option for some of these machines. Mark Smith says, I don't think Linux will run well on it. We'll find out. I think it'll do okay. The power supply wattage, it's a little one. It is a 45 watt power supply. And I'm sure it's not even using close to that amount of power, even when it's charging the battery. And Roman says, a good use case, you have cable TV or YouTube TV you can watch from a browser. Yep, perfect for that. Plug it into the television. Corey says, Chrome OS is too limited in my use cases. I do emulation and run virtual machines with Hyper-V. Yeah, I think this is probably not going to do it for you. But a lot of people like Chromebooks. And the price, as Frank says, it's hard to beat. It still is in beta, the Linux stuff. It is. Let that install. And it's also downloading all the Android stuff at the same time here, so that's why it's taken up. You know what I have to do is like clear out all the apps from the last time I was testing it just to get everything situated. Now, hopefully they've, actually, let's do sudo get updates. Get our updates installed here on the Linux side. It doesn't always come like completely up to date in its packages, so we're going to update that. And then we're going to grab LibreOffice. Hopefully I have enough space left. I dedicated 10 gigs for the Linux thing here. I'll tell you, something about the command shell, it just speaks to me. I've been playing around with all this packet radio stuff, and there's some really cool ways to interact with data on the radio with telnet connections to software-defined modems and stuff. And Eric is working on a lot of bugs with his stuff there. Oh, Damien points out that you can run Docker. That's true, you can run Docker on these things. And we're running Linux right now on it, as a matter of fact. And Dennis says that his students are given Chromebooks that we use every single day throughout the school year. Yeah, this one feels exactly like the one my daughter has, except it's a little faster because it's got a more recent processor on it. And yeah, I think this was, I mean, they really took over in education. And I can tell you, I'm on the school board, and you know, the fact that we went, and I would say now Microsoft is caught up a lot in how they manage their stuff. I think there's a real equilibrium at this point, but so many schools got into Google that, you know, once you're in, you can't get out because it's just too costly to switch everything out. You know, you dump all your laptops and go over, you know, that's what's the killer thing, is that they're all the same hardware, but one can run Windows and the other can't. But I mean, I would say our IT department would be twice the size right now if we weren't running with the Chromebooks, because it really offloads a lot of stuff you would need people for if you were self-hosting everything. David says his first Chromebook was an Acer AC700. And he left it on the roof of a car. It got run over. I bet you it probably still would boot if you reassembled it. CFS 542 says, with Google releasing, well, I think it's, you know, it's a matter, I always have this discussion on the channel, because, like, yes, you can buy something used for around the same price, right? But the problem is I can't review used stuff because there's, you know, it's hard to find the same thing that I'm reviewing, right? And I like to see what's out there that's new. The keyboard, by the way, is not bad on this. I kind of like the keyboard. It's got good travel to it. Let's get LibreOffice going here. Hopefully it installs this time. Remember we had to go through that whole thing of finding a new package source and everything else last time, so hopefully they fixed that. John's got Chrome OS Flex on one of his older laptops. Yeah, some things don't work and some things do. So Jay Polema points out that the USB thing is a current requirement, but I don't think they're required to be full service on the USB-C port. And I also like the small MacBooks. I had an 11-inch Air, and then I replaced that with the 12-inch MacBook, which I loved, and I'm waiting for an M1 12-inch. That's what I really want. And Wilton's using Plex and HD Home Run on his Chromebook. All right. And David says, with Linux, you have alpha, beta, and outdated. All right, looks like it's installing LibreOffice, which is good. And Roman says that Chrome OS Linux is probably in beta because they haven't enabled all the hardware acceleration yet. Yeah. Charles, yeah, I've heard about their new podcast. I haven't listened to it yet. I've always wanted to do more with space. It's just hard to break through into that. You know, for me, it was better to do tech products where I could actually earn a living. The general public does not have I think it's because it doesn't impact people in their day-to-day lives, the space stuff, which is unfortunate to say, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of ongoing, constant interest in the topic as there is with consumer electronics, right? It's like you can buy this laptop, and so that's why you would watch a video about it, right? But most people can't afford to go to space, so like it doesn't impact their lives to the point where that you would get. And that's what I really wanted to do, was kind of like something that was addressing space to everyday people. And I don't think the public's interest is quite there yet. I think if you could buy a ticket at a reasonable price, there'd be a greater interest in the topic beyond just people that are into space. Ken says, I'd use it to travel. Yeah, this is a perfect kind of travel machine if you don't need a lot of capability on the road. And you've got all the Linux capacity, which I think is really neat. And Roman is getting into command line stuff too. Yeah, I've been getting better and better with it. If you feel accomplished when you really understand how it works. I've been doing, on the software-defined radio stuff on my Raspberry Pi, I've been setting up a lot of listening apps just on the command line. And that's been a lot of fun to figure out. And then Jolt Dude says there's enterprise Chromebooks. Yes, they have a Parallels VM that can run Windows. This one is probably capable of it, but it doesn't have enough storage. And the original CR48 Chromebook worked amazingly well and ran Linux natively with little issue, but no USB-C charging. Yeah, they had some neat questions. Neat. You all have neat questions. I'm tired. You all have neat questions, but they had some neat Chromebooks. This is a really neat platform when it got started. Neuropilot wants to know, does it have a touch screen? No, not at this price. The specs on this one, I'll put them in the chat so you all know what it is. Not much here on the specs. So this is N4000 Intel Celeron. Let me do a chat here. I'll do like a pinned chat. Oops. CPU N4000 Intel Celeron. It has 4 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes eMMC. And that is it. What else do we have on here? 720p display, essentially. And I'll pin this. Okay. Yes, it is eMMC is the CPU. Or this is the CPU, the storage. Sorry, everybody. It's my brain slows down in the afternoon. And yeah, I've tried to do some space stuff. I just haven't had a lot of viewer interest, and that's been the difficulty. Because a lot of my viewership relies upon people searching for things, and just the public is not searching. So like the space channels that are out there get tremendous traffic, but everybody that watches those channels is really into space. So it's not a, you know, it's a community, and I'm not downplaying it, but it's hard to break into that, and it's also hard to attract a broader audience that's not as into space as those folks are, and that's kind of what I wanted to target. And I also live in Connecticut, so it's hard from a cost standpoint. Unless I was in Florida, it's really hard to get down there to cover it. But I will go down. We'll do another. I have put my name in to be press for the Artemis launch. So we're going to do more space on the channel, no question. Rumor wants to know how far the screen folds down. Yeah, it goes flat, but it doesn't loop around. It's actually very lightweight. I would say it's probably maybe 2 pounds. I mean, it looks cheaper than it feels. Let's put it that way. It doesn't feel like a total piece of junk, but it's not the highest quality thing you will find. Let's see, I'm losing a whole bunch of questions here. Let's see here. Yeah, and see, here's the problem, too, with this stuff, is that it comes down to, this is, by the way, LibreOffice still installing. It's all the dependencies and everything else that it has to pull down first. The challenge is that, you know, right now we've got, you know, 182 people watching the stream, and I'm sure you all would watch something like that. The problem is that from a time perspective, you know, for the same amount of, so let's say I were to fly down to Florida or even talk about space for you know, two hours to research, 2 hours to do the show. Every one of my weekly wrap-ups that I've done on a space topic has been among the lowest watched that I have put together. And so if I was going to budget 4 hours of time for something, I will do much better reviewing this laptop than I would talking about space, which is unfortunate because I really want to talk about space more. But there's just not a big enough audience for that. And that's the challenge. But I'm definitely going to go down to the Artemis thing, and then I might try to do something with more SpaceX stuff too, because we can get into those launches as well. End of life date on this one is June of 2028. And Matthew says, you know, this doesn't seem like a terrible, yeah, I think it's, you know, at its current price, I think this is really a good deal. If you know what the limitations of Chrome OS are. So Roman says, do I use sudo apt-get install or sudo apt install? I do apt-get. Oh, I see. Apt shows a progress bar. Apt-get does not. Got it. Now I learned something. I always wondered what the difference was between the two. I just like to see all this stuff flying by. I think it's kind of neat. Steve Gibson, the security guy, you know, kind of said he was talking about some other piece of software, but it's like you summon it. You don't know what it's doing. It's like you summon a spell, and then the spell, but somebody has to script all of this. It's not easy, right? All right, so now we're going to load up some Linux applications. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So this is LibreOffice, and this is a Microsoft Word kind of application. And what's significant here is that this is running locally on the Chromebook. So we're not on a website. We are on a Linux application, and it looks like it's running okay. Let's just make this a little bit smaller here. It feels pretty, I'll tell you what, it feels pretty zippy. And this is the Linux application. It looks like Excel. It actually looks like the pre-Office 2000 or whatever Excel, like the one that didn't have the ribbon interface. And I can load up LibreOffice, the Word alternative. Boom, pops right up there. Yeah, these Intel chips are pretty quick. Not bad. So there you go. And then like you could also run like Firefox on a Chromebook, which is kind of neat. Christoph says, can you not run, well, you can run it on the Linux side, but it's not an installable, I don't think it's on Android. But I like to use that as an example because it's easy for me to install, and it's a very nice visual of like, okay, look, here's an example of a GUI-based, usable, functional Linux app that I think is very accessible to people. All right, let's take a look at Google Play. Let's make sure all of our apps are installed here. By the way, you can never get Call of Duty Mobile to run on this thing. This doesn't like it. And you could definitely post those links up. I've watched the Everyday Astronaut streams. NASA Spaceflight does some really good stuff too. And Charlie says, you know what's funny about this? I was at an HP product preview event, and they've been doing a lot of market research, and young people are using Chromebooks more than tablets. Partly, I'm guessing it's because of the fact that they're getting them in schools, and that's the computer they're buying in their home. But it's very functional. I really like the keyboard on it. It's not backlit or anything, but it feels really good. And you can't beat the price at the moment. All right, so we'll let this finish updating my apps here. And I do have some games installed. And here's one other fun thing we can do. Watch this. There's a website called system7.app, and you can boot up a Mac in emulation right in the browser. Isn't that cool? So you can run like, this is not like some simulation. This is an actual emulator running. It's running inside the browser. Isn't that wild? Yeah, it runs pretty nice. And I think I have RetroArch will be running on here too. All right, so you know what I'm going to do next is let's go to, I'm going to log into my Game Pass. Is it xbox.com/play maybe? Is that the address to get to? Play.xbox.com. Yes. Okay, so let me grab my, so I'm going to also pair my game controller up with it. And let's get this going. So we're going to turn it on and put it into pairing mode. Yeah, I have to say this feels pretty good. I mean, you know, granted we haven't done any benchmarks on it, but it feels fairly snappy. Like I haven't felt like, oh my gosh, this thing is a budget piece of junk, right? It feels like pretty zippy. All right, so let's add our controller. And we'll pair this up with it. All right, that's done. And let me log in to my Microsoft account real quick. Bear with me here, folks. One second here, I'm just going to get this thing situated. All right. I'll grab my two-factor authentication. Okay, pop in with that. and we'll be good to go. Play some games. I'll probably record some B-roll for this, because why not, right? It'll save us some time for the review later on. So Acer Chromebook. Well, I have to say, for the price that you're going to find this thing at, there's a sale price going on. It's feeling pretty good. Pretty good. Here, let's load up Forza Horizon 5. Now remember, this is... It's funny, it seems like it's not finding the controller. Press a button. Do it. There we go. Okay. I actually control it with the... Isn't that cool? All right, so we'll continue there. And then I think there's a full screen option for this when it comes up. Because you don't have a lot of screen real estate being only 720p. There we go. Now this is going over the AC Wi-Fi. And remember, this is streaming. This is not playing from the machine natively. The speakers, as you might imagine, are rather tinny. No surprise there. Pretty good. Is that a Larry David thing? I think it might be. Look how smooth the streaming is on it, though. It looks beautiful. And this is coming from Microsoft, of course. And I'm missing a whole bunch of... And Matthew Schaffer was using OS 7. Yeah, I had it on my PowerBook. I think my PowerBook came with OS 7, and then I upgraded to OS 7.5. And Chris Allegretto says, value-wise, yeah, this is like a lot of consensus here that we've got a good little machine. We haven't really benchmarked it, but it's useful, right? All right. And Mark is updating his Core 2 Duo Latitude. You could run Chrome OS Flex on that, I think, right? I don't think you can upgrade the storage. We'll try to take it apart if we have time. I don't think there's going to be much of an upgrade path on this one. And Neuropilot says, when my Lenovo Chromebook goes end of life soon, I might use it for SMD repair practice. I paid $30 for it. Yeah, exactly. Like, these things are almost disposable. And yeah, Microsoft is moving in that direction of password. I got to explore that a bit more, because I don't know if their website supports that or not. But we'll do a little bit of this. And streaming Xbox is always hilarious. It can be, kind of, right? It is stereo speakers, but they don't sound very good. And the screen, I believe, is IPS, which is why it looks pretty nice. And I've got the brightness turned down a little bit here. But, yeah. It looks okay. And I'm using the Wi-Fi, not the Ethernet, so it's looking pretty good. So let me turn the volume down on this a little bit. Yeah, the speakers don't sound great at all. I think this is where you'd probably want to plug in a pair of headphones or use some Bluetooth headphones. And I'm thinking about, like, what can I do with my amateur radio stuff on this, right? Although I think maybe I would like one of these just running Ubuntu or some kind of Linux that I can install, which I guess you could do if you get the Windows variant that is a little more flexible on what you can install. But yeah, it feels pretty good as I'm playing around here with the Xbox controller. Now remember, this is running on the Xbox Cloud Gaming, not on the, like, this thing could never run a game like this. Just not capable. But it looks great. Ooh. Can you imagine, like, wrecking your Corvette like this? I need to play this game more. I haven't really figured out, not to say, I don't want to say this in a way that might offend people, but I have yet to figure out, like, what the purpose of this game is. I know a lot of people love it, And maybe it's just the driving around and getting stuff. Is that kind of the mission of this game? Because I've started playing around with it a little bit. I've always been a fan of like the Burnout stuff where you can like wreck cars, and so I can just drive right through that car. But yeah, good stuff. I gotta tell you, like, the amount of value you get out of this Game Pass thing is really pretty good. All right, so we're gonna do Game Pass, and we have B-roll of that now recorded. All right, so let me go and exit. Seems to work fine. And these machines do great at this kind of stuff because they are running Intel processors. And Intel processors, as we've talked about in our Plex videos, are exceptionally good for video decoding and video encoding, believe it or not. So these are good for that sort of stuff. You just don't have a lot of screen real estate. Now I do have some Android games installed on here. I want to find one that uses the control. Goat Simulator, let's try that. So this is the Android version of Goat Simulator. Okay. Bear with me, folks. We're waiting for it to load up here. This might push our limits a bit too far. Let's see. Okay, we are up and running. Okay, so I'm missing so many questions here. Carmageddon was a great game. That would run on here too, I think. And Roman says, I can't imagine having a Corvette like this. I don't think Chromebook supports extra storage that can mount internally. This one has an SD card slot, so you could put something in that way. Now, I don't know if this supports the game controller. Let's see. Hit play. How do we play the game here? Looks like I'm stuck. I think it might be expecting touch input, which I am not able to provide. Let's see if I can get out of it. And this is what you run into sometimes with this. So let's go back and try it again. And there are games that do support the game controller on Android. This may not be one of them. We'll find out. We'll give it another shot. John wants to know, did I close the Linux environment? If you close it by the X, it's still, yeah, no, it's still running in the background. I think it'll pass it or close it if, all right, hang on a second. I wonder if I'm screwing up by pushing the buttons on the controller here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn off the controller and see if that might make it work better. I wonder if it's getting confused by the presence of the game controller. All right, let's try it one more time. But this, by the way, is a good example of some of the challenges with these Android apps on Chromebooks, because these apps expect a touch screen, and when one is not on the computer, it becomes problematic. And there's a lot going on, by the way, on amateur radio. There's people that are running like these digipeaters off of a Pi Zero. It's incredible. Like there's a whole thing you can download to do that. And I was talking to a guy last night who's part of the Ares team here in my state. And Ares is a kind of like an emergency response group that puts communications in place using amateur radio. And they're using something called WinLink now, which will, it's like a whole statewide digipeater network. It's kind of cool. So I have to get an antenna. I got a lot of stuff is going to come on the amateur radio thing as we roll along here. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, let's try Crossy Road. I think I have that one installed. So I'm going to turn the controller back on. So, but there's an example of like some of the pitfalls of running Android games on here. If they don't fully support everything, it doesn't work right. I do have RetroArch, which we'll play around with in a minute. I got to get some ROMs on it to do that. But let's do, I think Pac-Man 256 supports the controller. Let's see. This is by the same people that make Crossy Road. This is a fun game, by the way. It's like an endless Pac-Man runner. Yeah, so this one needs... Yeah, so this one, like again, if you don't have... Right? You're stuck. So this is the kind of problem you're going to run into with some of these Android games. But let's try Crossy Road. I'm pretty sure I had it installed on here, but maybe not. Here it is. Okay, let's try that. Brian was wondering if I try, my mom has an expired Chromebook. I should bring it over here and see what we can do with it. I think whatever browser vulnerabilities there are, they would be susceptible to. It just crashed, didn't it? Yeah, it did. Huh. All right, let's reboot. I think we're running out of memory, but we'll just do a quick reboot here. By the way, these things boot up so quickly. Watch what happens. So we just turned it off. We'll turn it back on again. And it's almost instantaneous. There is an SD card slot on the left-hand side here. So you have a micro SD card slot right there. So you could augment its storage. And she's taking a little bit to come back up. There she goes. Okay, so let me go log back in. There's no fingerprint reader on here either, by the way. But I'll tell you what, I really like the keyboard on this. It's got really good travel to it. Like, I've never been crazy about Acer's keyboards, but they have to follow the Chrome layout and size. So I tend to like their Chromebook keyboards better than their Windows computer keyboards. All right, let's try Crossy Road now on a completely fresh boot and see what we get here. Okay. I almost feel like the Android experience on these is kind of deteriorating. But now it's loading up, but it's a little laggy. And now it's just kind of stuck. And you know what was really interesting with Google I/O? Enter my age. Oh my goodness, I got to tell it how old I am. I'm too old. There was no mention of Chrome OS during Google I/O at all. And they're talking about how they're coming back to tablets again and all that kind of stuff, right? All right, here we go. It's a little laggy, I got to say. Let me do a little recording here. Oh, let me do that one more time. So the controller works on this game, at least, but not all of them. All right, let's try this again here. Now it's caught up. I think it was just lagging a little bit as it was booting up. Oh, there we go. I'm not very good at this game, am I? This is one of those addicting games that you'll just keep playing over and over again, right? Oh, squished. Hopefully I get one good run here. Oh, I like how he splatters on the side of the car. What happened? I got swept away? Was that like a waterfall thing? There we go, that was a good run. Oh! There we go. Now we're getting a good run here. This doesn't end, does it? It just keeps going until you die. But there's your Android. So yes, casual games, probably no problem. What else we got here? Super Tux Cart A shot. It might well perform. Oh yeah, is that a Linux one or is that a Android one? And David keeps a one. Yeah, so that's the best thing to do is like to throw that on there for media and stuff, you know, just to have things to play back on it. Why don't we run the browser bench speedometer test? Give that a run here. And we'll see what we get on that. And it might complain about screen size. So I'm going to zoom out the display. Maybe I can go full screen. That might accommodate it. What I could also do, yeah, try not to do that because I don't want to, there we go. All right, so let's run the browserbench.org. And yeah, the epic fails, right? I'm good at those. And this test is, we've run this now on every laptop we've reviewed over the last 5 or 6 years. And although I'm not big into benchmarks, it's actually fun to see, you kind of do a comparative to see where things kind of end up. And we'll let this keep running out here. This will run obviously a lot quicker on my Mac, but for a little cheap Chromebook, probably not a bad experience here. Yes, it will play 4K video. That's, you know, these Intel chips are really good at decoding that, so I have no doubt it will do that. And like I said, you know, on the review, I'll plug it into my external displays. I think it should be able to drive 2 4K displays. How well is another, you know, is a whole other discussion, but. And actually, I have at least one 4K display handy we can plug in real quick. All right, so the results on this test are 51.3. And let me go into my Google Doc. If you go to Lon.TV/benchmark, you can see, benchmarks, I'm sorry, Lon.TV/benchmarks, you can see what we're getting here for this one. So this one comes in pretty much, actually it's a little bit ahead of the Chromebook 14A that we looked at about 1.5 years ago, and that one's running the same processor as this one. So yeah, it's right where its peers are. So this is performing as expected, which is good. This is the Gemini Lake Refresh N4051.3 is the test score on it. All right, got some questions here. You know, Harry, I have a review. It's old, so it's not my best work. But if you go to Lon.TV/ChromeOS and scroll all the way down to the bottom, I have a review of the HP Chromebook 11. And this goes back to 2013. Actually, I can show it to you, because this was like one of the very first Chromebooks. Here, I'll pull it up on screen here real quick if you want to look at it. And I would check it out because I think it's kind of, you know, if I remember correctly, my complaints at the time were that it was very limited in what it could do. Because back then it didn't do Linux apps natively like it does now. It didn't run Android apps at all. So you got a computer that boots up the Chrome web browser and nothing else. And to a large degree, that's still what it does, but I think browsers are far more useful almost 10 years later than they were when it first came out. What's funny, though, when you look at that laptop and this one, they don't look much different, right? Like the design, if anything, this one looks a little prettier with that blue stripe around the keyboard. You know, they largely look the same almost a decade later. They perform a little better, obviously. This one, the old HP that I have on the screen, this one was powered by a ARM processor. And this was my old workflow when I had the Blackmagic recorder on the desk here. This was with the, I think I was still using, yeah, I wasn't up to my TriCaster yet, so I was using the old Blackmagic ATEM stuff back in the day with this one. That one had, is that USB-C? No, because it wasn't available yet in 2013. We didn't see that till 2015, so it had like its own like proprietary power adapter. That was the HP Chromebook 11. And now you got one of these with Intel. Good stuff. All right, and let's see here. Tomorrow is wondering the heat. Yeah, it gets a little warm, like right over here. There's no fan on this. This is fanless, so you might see it throttle a little bit depending on how hot it's getting, because that's how it manages heat is through throttling. So I would say that you probably won't see, you know, that consistency over a long burn here, but you're not going to do much with this, I don't think, to really get you there. Why don't we take a look at the webcam and see how that looks on this thing. But I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, for the price that it's currently selling at, what a deal, huh? Like if you need like something usable that can run, you know, some Linux apps, not a lot of storage, not a lot of RAM, but if you're doing one thing at a time, right? There's a lot you can do with these things. Let's go back. RW Stark says, I have more hair lights now. Yeah, that's the gray hair that came after my children arrived. That's funny. Paul Bakewell's here. Hello there. Ah, the Acer, right. They had an Acer Chromebook with a Tegra chip. And I remember being disappointed that it wasn't very powerful. And Harry had the HP 11 also and loved it. Micro USB charging, that's what it was. Got it. Yeah, that's right, because it was before USB-C. And I'm still going. I sure am. I'm getting the, the webcam. You know, the webcam, you can't see it. You know what I'll do is I'll take a little video with it, and then I'll put it, I'll roll it in. I got to tell you, the image quality out of the webcam is not bad. Let's see. I'm going to look at the resolution. It is only 720p. Let's do a quick little. I like to do this because I add B-roll. Okay, so stop recording. I like to have B-roll for my stuff there. All right, so let's close that out. And Tech Time was at BJ's. All right, let's go back to, I gotta get this file off of here, so I gotta figure out how to copy it over to my NAS device. That's the one thing, I don't know if you can connect to SMB sources on here, can you? No. I can throw it in the Google Drive. let's connect to my, so I have a Synology NAS, and I can use their app, which is an Android app, to copy the file back and forth. I think I can do that. Let's just do this. So I'm just going to copy the file back over. Yeah, I trademarked that wave. That's right. Shows motion, right? So why not do a little bit of a wave? Okay, so I need to go to my current projects folder here, and I'm going to upload or add. I don't know if, yeah, I gotta move it over to the Android side, I think. Yeah, okay, so let's do that real quick. Bear with me, folks, I just have to move a file over because it's on, so the file is in the Chromebook side, and I need to copy it to the Android side so that, because these are all run in their own containers. So I got to move it over there, I think. Yeah, let's see, let's put it in the pictures folder here. So let's see if I can find it now. Or I can get my SD card out and just do it that way. That's the one thing. I don't think there's a way to like connect to SMB sources on this. There it is. And we'll just copy that up to my NAS. And then I'll pull it off of there and show you what the image looks like. I was actually pretty impressed with the webcam image quality. So bear with me, folks. I'm just going to copy it over to my desktop here. And then you can be the judge of how it looks. So let's add video. Okay, check it out. Yeah, I guess it's a little blurry, but the lighting looks good on it, right? So it's not as crisp as, you know, a 1080p camera would be, but yeah, so if you have a fancier webcam, you'll have to attach it. But, you know, I think for what's built in is pretty good. Can you add dongles? Of course. Yeah, you can dongle this thing up. Actually, let's look at the, I'm curious about the display output. Because I've got a decent charge now, I think. Yeah, about 97% now. Yeah, well, let me, because I want to get it hooked up to 2 displays, which I can't do on camera because my displays are over there. So I'll have to play around with that a little bit more. But what was it? Chrome OS update. So let's do the next update here. But I'm impressed with this. I think, you know, I got to do a little bit more with this before I do the full review. But I am pretty optimistic about its capabilities here based on this initial stream that we've done. It feels pretty good. And I think I might, let me see if I can find anyone who's taken it apart. Just to save the trouble, right? So Chromebook 11, here it is. Oh, somebody did it already. Laptopmedia.com on YouTube has taken this apart. And it is not upgradable. Looks like the motherboard is actually upside down. Yeah, it's all soldered in. Although the wireless card, it looks like, is replaceable. Everything else is not. Yeah, the motherboard is placed upside down. Yes, everything is soldered on, so there is no upgradability on this at all, which is a shame because sometimes these little machines are upgradable. All right, let me go back into So you know what I will do in the interim here, because I do want to hook it up to 2 displays. But let's see if we can get a 4K 60 output before we wrap up today's stream. So we will attach our 1080 or 4K display, and we'll plug in to it. Because this doesn't have HDMI ports on it. So sometimes the HDMI ports themselves are the limiting factor because they limit them to HDMI 1.4 or whatever, you know, one of those deals. All right, let me get the dongle connected. So this is only going to be a single display, but I suspect when I hook this up to my 4K displays on my desk a little later that this will do more than what we think it will. And bear with me here for 1 second, folks. Just got to find my cable. Here it is. All right, so let's plug in. And I'll zoom out here in a second too so you can get a better look at this. So we'll plug in here, and plug into the back. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal. Pretty good. All right, so we are plugged in. And the monitor's on, but we're not getting anything out of it yet. So let's see what the deal is there. Plugged into input 1 maybe, let's see. There it goes. So we are in a dual screen setup. It's definitely outputting 4K. So let us go set up the... Wouldn't that be wild if you can get like 2 4K displays on this thing? Where'd my mouse go? It's not scaling the screen because it's like super tiny. So let's go into our display settings. Yeah, I can't. It's a good thing this screen is as big as it is because I am like unable to see a darn thing right now. Displays. Okay, so on the big one here, yeah, it's at 60 hertz. And I'll go to 200% here. Look at that. Yeah, 60 hertz, no problem. So that's good. And I could, do I have another 4K display handy? I need to buy another 4K display to have like available over here at this desk. But yeah, it looks like that one's working. So let me oh, I know what I could do. I could route it through, let's try this real quick. I'm going to turn this off. And I can route, this might crash the stream, just so you know. But if it doesn't, we'll have the answer. I can route this through my new tech box here, which will do a 4K input. So we'll have a quick answer to the question. So let me reboot the new tech box. But I am short, you know what, I'm short an adapter. So I only have 1 dongle. Yeah, I gotta hook this up later. I will get that figured out. But this is 4K, and we've got a separate image here on the display. Because I don't think I have another 4K HDMI dongle that can support 60 hertz. That's not a dock. This is a display port. Actually, what I could do is go display port on one of them and HDMI on the other. So let's try that. That might do it. So, because this is a DisplayPort monitor. So let's try that real quick. Sorry for just bumbling around here. N4000 is not 5 years old, I don't think. Is it? Let me look and see. N4000 is the Gemini Lake refresh. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, you're right. Yep. It is the 2017 one. I got it confused. So that is not the refresh. But it is definitely the N4000 inside of it. All right, let me go grab a DisplayPort cable, which I think I have in my bag of tools here. There's one. No, it's HDMI. This one is the wrong one. It's this one. That's HDMI. But 5-year-old processor on a $100 laptop, I am not complaining because it's a good deal. All right, let me go grab my DisplayPort cable and we'll see if we can get a dual output here. So where did my DisplayPort cables go? Here's one. The only problem with my organizational system is that I take things out and they never actually get back to where they started. But what are you going to do? Okay, so we're going to unplug the HDMI from here, and I'm going to plug in DisplayPort instead. And we're going to have to go on battery because the docking station didn't seem to work with it. So we'll go off battery for a minute here. All right, so now we're good there. And let's switch to the DisplayPort output, and then we're going to take the HDMI and plug that in. Now the DisplayPort is also working, and we're going to make this a back to our display here, if I can find my mouse. It's got a lot of real estate to cover when it's coming through the problem is I don't know where actually the display ends up. So let's try this here. Like my mouse will not come back to me. Where did it go? There it is, okay. All right, so let's go to device. All right, so this one we're going to do to 200% again like we did before. And it is also running at 60 hertz still, so we've got that going. And make this kind of in the middle there so I can get back and forth. And this is going to be that way. All right, so now I can go here. Okay, so now we've got that going. So now what we're going to do, this is what might crash the stream. I'm going to plug in to here, and I'm going to attach my power cable, wherever that went. There we go. So this is a 4K input here, so I could test it at 4K 60 once I get it hooked up. Now, where did that power cable go? Hang on a second, folks. Unplug that. Yeah, I'm going to need, if I get caught up this week, I'm going to do an overhaul of this disastrous organizational problem I have down here right now. Because I am missing cables that I had hooked up this morning. So like this thing was totally hooked up this morning and working fine. And now all of a sudden, there it is. Okay, let's plug this in. All right, let's plug that in, plug this in. Okay. So now, we've got that connected, and we have USB and HDMI and DisplayPort going out. And bear with me here for a second, folks. There we go. Okay, so now something else has happened. Look at that. Okay, so now we've got, oh, it does have 3 displays. Wow. Okay, so the new tech is running at 1080p. Can we go to 4K? We can. Can we go to 60 hertz? We cannot. But that might not be a limitation. Yeah, I'm gonna have to plug this into my display, but I have right now a 4K running at 60 and one at 30. And that's the New Tech one here. But I think this supports 4K 60, but it could, the nature of this setup here might be limiting us. So I'm going to plug it in. I'll test that later, but we've definitely got 3 distinct displays going on here. So it will do 3. But the third one is not at 60. But I've seen these Gemini Lakes do 60 on 2 displays at the same time. So good deal. All right. And oh, there was a request to run a 4K video on it, so let's try that. So let me disconnect the HDMI. And I'm just going to plug power back in just to make sure it's running at full steam. And actually, you know what we'll do is we'll play back that 4K 60 Nantucket video that I've got. Let's see if we can get that up and running here. Oops. Yeah, it may struggle on this one. We'll see. We'll see how it does. Because we don't have a lot of RAM on this thing, and I think that's going to be a determining factor here. And plus, get all these stupid pop-ups off the screen. All right, let it settle down here. You know, it's actually, it dropped a bunch at the outset. Let me get in on the thing here. You know, surprisingly, it is doing better with the 4K video. This is like the spot of the video where it drops the most frames, and it didn't drop any right there. So like once it settled down at full screen, it's been able to run this just fine. This is a 4K 60 video. So I think a 720p 60 is going to be fine. But it shows you like the internal capacity or capability of these chips, right? Like sure you're getting a drop frame here or there, but would you notice that on a $99 laptop? Because even like scene changes and things where you get a lot of motion going on, it's pretty good. Code Venom wants to know, am I live on Amazon? Yes, I'm also on Amazon. So if you head over there, you will see me. Nantucket is such a beautiful place. That's what this video is of. Great. All right. Well, I think I've got a lot here. So yeah, I think we're in good shape. Now, my luck, this thing won't be on sale by the time I get to the video tomorrow, right? That's usually how those things go. But I think we're good. Hey, Trent Curtis is here, my ham buddy. We both got our technician licenses right around the same time. So yeah, I got on my local DMR network last night. The Aries group was meeting. So I got to talk with all those guys, and then the area coordinator called me afterward to get me going. So I've got a lot of fun stuff to play around with. Got to get an antenna up there on the roof. That's the next step. All right. Well, I am impressed with this thing. So yeah, $99 price tag that it's currently on sale for, worth it. So I got a little bit more to do with this, but I will be, you know where to find me, right here. And Aaron missed all the games. Yes, you can run games on it. Not well, but you can run some games on it. Whatever an N4000 can run, this can run. So 8-bit stuff, light emulation, Android games that are compatible, game streaming, definitely good there. So yeah, it's good stuff. All right. So I am in good shape here. So we're going to be heading out. I am going to get myself organized for the review that I'm going to shoot. If I play my cards, I'm not sure if I can get to it today. We'll find out. I'm going to try to hustle on there and see if I can get it done. But yeah, good little machine. Not bad for the price. So be on the lookout. I will try to get this review up tomorrow night, or it might be up Wednesday. We'll see how tonight's wrap-up does. So stay tuned. And if you have any questions, I'll leave them in the comments, and I'll cover it in the review if it makes sense. All right, I got to run, but thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate all of your feedback and ideas. And we'll do this again sometime. So set your notifications. Follow me on Amazon, Lon.TV, excuse me, that Amazon shop. And I pop up there a little bit more often than YouTube. So definitely give a follow. And I'm glad you all like the streams. I enjoy doing them because they're really fun. And what's nice is I have a record because this actually came into play when we did the DJI mic review the other day, because I left out how the external mic sounds with that, but we had done it during the stream, so I was able to pull that out and put it into the video. So that was a lot of fun to be able to do that. So good stuff there. Now it looks like somebody contributed a super chat, and I don't know who it was. So whoever did it, thank you, because it says I have chat revenue, but not from who. So thank you for whoever did do that. I'm looking through here. It didn't say who did it. So appreciate it, whoever you are, and send me an email if it was you, because I can put you up on there. All right, we will be back before you know it, and I appreciate you all as always. And thank you for tuning in. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.